Everyone in Sunview Estates knew not to cross Patricia Blackwell. For 15 straight years, she had ruled the neighborhood as HOA president, walking the streets with her clipboard every Sunday morning like clockwork. The neighbors would peek through their curtains, holding their breath as she stopped in front of houses, writing notes and taking pictures of what she called violations. Patricia lived in the biggest house at the end of Magnolia Lane. It was a grand Tudor-style home with perfect hedges cut so straight you'd think she measured them with a ruler, and truth be told, she probably did. Each season, her front garden changed completely overnight, as if by magic. Winter poinsettias disappeared, replaced by spring tulips, then summer roses and fall mums, all arranged in perfect rows that never had a single weed or dead leaf. Behind her back, neighbors didn't call her Patricia. They called her the Patricia, and never in a nice way. Kids would warn each other, "Watch out, the Patricia is on the prowl," whenever they saw her marching down the street in her pressed pantsuits and pearl necklaces. Her list of HOA crimes was legendary. Mrs. Lee put up a bird feeder. Violation notice within hours. The Rodriguez family painted their front door navy blue instead of the approved forest green. Emergency HOA meeting called. The elderly Mr. Wilson couldn't mow his lawn after his surgery. Patricia hired a service and billed him triple the normal rate. Once the Thompsons put a small garden gnome by their mailbox. The next morning, it was gone. No one could prove Patricia took it, but everyone knew. The same thing happened to the Patel family's decorative wind chimes and the Johnsons' unauthorized welcome mat. What made people even more afraid to challenge her was how she could make life difficult in sneaky ways. Those who spoke against her at HOA meetings suddenly found their garbage cans accidentally tipped over or their mail mistakenly delivered to the wrong address for weeks. But what most people in Sunview Estates didn't know was that Patricia's power-hungry nature went far beyond just bossing neighbors around. Behind closed doors, she was building something much bigger. A business empire called Holy Land Essentials. Every evening, after terrorizing the neighborhood, Patricia would go into her home office and transform herself. She'd sit in front of expensive lighting equipment and cameras, her face now warm and inviting as she talked to thousands of followers online. "Ladies, I'm so blessed to share these ancient beauty secrets with you," she would say in a sweet voice nobody in Sunview would recognize. Her perfectly manicured hands would gently hold up fancy glass bottles and jars. "This Dead Sea mud mask pulls toxins right out of your skin, just like it's done for women in the Holy Land for thousands of years." Her viewers ate it up. Comments poured in as she showed off products with names like Milk of Cannon Moisturizer and Jericho Rose Serum. Women would type things like, "Just ordered 3," and "My skin has never looked better," while Patricia smiled at the camera, occasionally mentioning how these formulas came straight from God's promised land. The business had started small just 3 years ago, but now Patricia was making millions. She had built an army of what she called blessed consultants, mostly stay-at-home moms and church ladies who would sell the products to friends and family, taking a small cut while Patricia raked in the real money. When new products launched, Patricia would dress in flowing white clothes, light special candles, and create an almost religious experience for her viewers. "This isn't just skincare," she would whisper dramatically into the camera. "This is a blessing for your beauty journey." Little did her devoted customers or terrified neighbors know that Patricia Blackwell's holy empire was built on nothing but lies. And soon, those lies would start coming apart at the seams. The truth about Holy Land Essentials wasn't nearly as holy as Patricia made it sound. Behind her online smile and talk of ancient beauty secrets was a business that made money in ways that would shock her faithful customers. Patricia's office walls were covered with framed magazine covers and articles. "Faith-based beauty maven takes industry by storm," read one headline. "Holy Land miracle worker brings biblical beauty home," declared another. She loved to point these out to visitors, telling the story of how she'd been called to create her skincare line during a life-changing trip to Jerusalem. "I was walking through the old market," she'd tell people, her voice dropping to a reverent whisper, "when I felt drawn to this tiny family shop. Inside, an old man showed me beauty recipes passed down for generations. That's when I knew God wanted me to share these gifts with women everywhere. It was a great story. Too bad none of it was true." The real Holy Land Essentials operation happened in a plain warehouse building in an industrial park about 30 miles from Sunview Estates. Inside, workers in hairnets and plastic gloves poured cheap creams and lotions into fancy bottles. Most of these workers made minimum wage and had no benefits. They weren't allowed to talk about what they did, having signed strict papers when they were hired. The products arrived in giant drums from manufacturers in China and New Jersey. Nothing, not a single drop, came from Israel or anywhere near the Holy Land. The warehouse supervisor would often joke, "The closest this stuff gets to Jerusalem is when I watch Bible documentaries on my lunch break." But that didn't stop Patricia from charging top dollar. A jar of Dead Sea mud mask that cost $2 to make sold for $79.99. The Bethlehem Brightening Serum had even better profits, $1.75 to produce, $89.99 to buy. And her customers didn't just buy one thing. The average order was over $200, with many women spending their whole paychecks on what they believed were miracle products. Patricia's real genius was her sales system. Instead of selling in stores, she recruited everyday women as blessed consultants. These women, usually looking for extra income while raising kids or helping with church activities, would pay $500 for a starter kit of products. Then they'd host parties at home or post about the products online, trying to sell to friends and family. Patricia would hold weekly video calls with her consultants, dressed all in white like some kind of beauty prophet. "Ladies, this isn't just a business," she'd tell them. "This is a ministry. You're not just selling skincare, you're spreading blessings." What she didn't mention was that consultants had to buy more inventory each month to stay active in the program. Most ended up with garages full of products they couldn't sell, while Patricia's bank accounts grew fatter. Every Monday morning, Patricia would film her Miracle Monday videos, unveiling new products with theatrical flair. "This Jordan River clay mask," she'd say, holding up a glittering jar, "contains mud from the exact spot where John baptized Jesus." Women would rush to order, not knowing this special clay was actually cheap filler from a factory in Ohio. To keep her holy image perfect, Patricia hired a team to delete any negative comments or questions about ingredients. One former employee later said, "If someone asked where the products were actually made or mentioned a rash they got, we had to delete it within minutes. 3 strikes, and you were fired." Meanwhile, Patricia's Holy Land empire kept growing. A warehouse became 2, then 3. Her sleek corporate office had a prayer room for show and a counting room for real. She drove a white Range Rover with custom Beeley SSED license plates and was now eyeing a small private jet. She planned to name it the Promised Land. But as with all empires built on lies, cracks were starting to show, and for Patricia Blackwell, Judgment Day was coming faster than she realized. Patricia Blackwell nearly spit out her morning tea when she saw the moving truck. Someone new was coming to Sunview Estates, and worse, they were moving into the beautiful colonial house 3 doors down from her own. She hadn't approved any new residents lately. Something was wrong. The woman who stepped out of the car beside the moving truck made Patricia's lips pinch together so tight they almost disappeared. She looked to be in her mid-30s with casual clothes, and Patricia gasped, purple streaks in her hair. Rachel Chen wasn't what Sunview Estates was used to. She was taking a break from her high-pressure job as an investigative reporter to finish writing a book. After years of exposing corporate fraud and shady business practices, she needed some quiet time in a peaceful neighborhood. She had no idea she just moved next to the neighborhood's self-appointed queen. The first violation notice appeared on Rachel's door just 3 days after she moved in. Unapproved landscaping, Article 7, Section 12 of HOA Guidelines. Rachel had planted native wildflowers instead of the required perfect green lawn. The second notice came 2 days later. Improper mailbox height must be exactly 41 inches from ground. The third was for wind chimes that made excessive celebratory sounds. Rachel wasn't bothered. After taking down corrupt politicians and exposing dangerous working conditions in factories, a bossy neighbor with a clipboard didn't scare her. She smiled and waved at Patricia, which only made the HOA president more determined to drive her out. What Patricia didn't know was that while she was busy writing up violations, Rachel was noticing something odd. Every woman in the neighborhood seemed to use the same skincare products. At the community pool, at the mailbox, even at the grocery store, Rachel kept hearing about Holy Land Essentials and seeing the distinctive gold trend jars. "You have to try it," Mrs. Thompson from across the street told her. "Patricia sells it. She's our HOA president. It changed my life." A bit pricey, but it's all from the actual Holy Land. Rachel's reporter instincts tingled. That night, while walking her rescue dog, Sherlock, she paused by her neighbor's recycling bins. Something about those fancy cream jars looked familiar. She snapped a few pictures with her phone, careful not to disturb anything. Back home, she compared the photos to images from a story she'd researched last year about beauty product scams. The packaging looked suspiciously similar to mass-produced containers from a factory in China, just with different labels. Across town, Dr. Patel was having a strange day at his dermatology clinic. 3 different patients with angry red rushes, and all 3 used the same skincare line. He carefully documented each case, taking photos with permission and sending samples of the products for testing. "I don't understand," said one woman with painful bumps across her cheeks. "It's supposed to be all natural from the Holy Land. I paid $95 for this tiny jar." Dr. Patel frowned as he wrote a prescription for steroid cream. Did the product list all its ingredients? "Well, no," the woman admitted. "They say some ingredients are ancient family secrets." That evening, Dr. Patel called a colleague at the FDA. This wasn't the first time he'd seen reactions to so-called miracle products with hidden ingredients. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in Tel Aviv, Leah Cohen was scrolling through Instagram when something caught her eye. A beauty brand was using photos of her grandfather's small bookshop in Jerusalem in their marketing materials. The caption claimed it was where our founder discovered ancient beauty secrets passed down through generations. Leah stared in disbelief. Her grandfather's shop had never sold beauty products. It was a beloved local bookstore specializing in historical texts. She clicked through to the company's page, her anger growing as she saw more stolen images, including one of her own grandmother, described as a Holy Land beauty expert sharing secret formulations. As a lawyer specializing in intellectual property, Leah knew exactly what to do. She began drafting a cease and desist letter that would travel across the ocean to land on Patricia Blackwell's pristine desk. Back in Sunview Estates, Rachel was digging deeper. She created a fake profile and joined the Blessed Consultants Facebook group. What she found disturbed her: women sharing stories of going into debt to buy inventory they couldn't sell, being told that, if you pray harder, you'll sell more, and instructions to delete any comments about side effects or questions about ingredients. Rachel recognized the classic signs of a pyramid scheme wrapped in religious language to avoid scrutiny. She started compiling evidence, organizing receipts and packaging from neighbors' trash, and recording the increasingly bizarre claims made in Patricia's live videos. "This isn't just about misleading marketing," Rachel told Sherlock as she worked late into the night. "People are getting hurt, financially and physically." As she spoke, her phone buzzed with a new email. It was from a Dr. Patel, responding to her inquiry about skin reactions to Holy Land products. The connection was made. What Patricia didn't realize as she issued Rachel her 4th violation notice for unauthorized garden happiness was that 3 separate investigations were now converging on her Holy Land empire, and her day of reckoning was approaching faster than anyone expected. Rachel Chen sat cross-legged on her living room floor surrounded by papers, screenshots, and empty coffee cups. 3 weeks into her investigation of Holy Land Essentials, she had uncovered more than she ever expected. Her reporter's notebook was filled with details that turned her stomach. "Look at this," she murmured to Sherlock, who lay beside her chewing a squeaky toy. She held up a shipping manifest she'd obtained from a former warehouse worker. "Says here that Jordan River clay comes from a chemical plant in New Jersey, not exactly the Holy Land." She had joined the Blessed Consultants online community using the name Beth Johnson, with a profile picture of her college roommate who had given permission. Inside this digital world, Rachel witnessed the manipulation tactics firsthand. Every Monday, Patricia would host prosperity prayer calls where consultants were encouraged to visualize success and pray for sales breakthroughs. These calls always ended with the same message: If you're not seeing results, you need more inventory. Remember, faith without action is dead. Women would then rush to place orders, often using credit cards already stretched to their limits. The chat would fill with comments like, "Just ordered $500 more," and taking a leap of faith with the new collection. Rachel had connected with a woman named Diane who had lost over $12,000 trying to make Holy Land work. "They told me I wasn't trying hard enough," Diane explained during a tearful phone call. "When I couldn't make my mortgage payment, my team leader said I should sow more seeds to reap a bigger harvest. I was so brainwashed I actually took out a loan for more product." Diane had shared her bank statements and text messages with Rachel, along with photos of her garage still full of unsold inventory. Meanwhile, Dr. Patel's investigation had gone deeper. Laboratory results showed the Holy Land products contained undisclosed ingredients including high levels of hydroquinone, a skin-lightening chemical banned in many countries due to safety concerns. "These levels are dangerously high," explained the lab technician as she walked him through the results. "And look here, we'd found traces of mercury in the Moses Miracle Cream. This could cause serious nerve damage with prolonged use." Dr. Patel had now documented 17 patients with reactions ranging from mild rushes to severe chemical burns. He compiled their medical records with permission and prepared a formal report for the FDA, including detailed photographs showing the progression of symptoms. The agency was taking notice, assigning an investigator who specialized in cosmetics regulation to review the case. "This isn't just about mislabeling," the investigator told Dr. Patel. "If they're adding controlled substances without disclosure, that's a criminal offense." Across the world in Tel Aviv, Lee Cohen had not received any response to her cease and desist letter. After 2 weeks of silence, she'd had enough. "Grandpa, I need to handle this personally," she told her grandfather, who was still upset about his bookstore's image being used to sell fake beauty products. "Go teach them a lesson," the old man encouraged, patting her hand. "Your grandmother would have done the same." Leah booked a flight to the United States, bringing with her a thick folder of evidence showing how Holy Land Essentials had stolen family photos, falsified stories, and created an entirely fabricated connection to Jerusalem. Back in Sunview Estates, Patricia remained blissfully unaware of the gathering storm. Her focus was on her upcoming television appearance. The Rise and Shine America show had finally invited her to demonstrate her products live on national TV. "This is it," she told her assistant while reviewing the segment outline. "Once we're on nationwide television, sales will explode. I'm thinking we should raise prices the night before to capitalize on the exposure." To prepare for her big moment, Patricia doubled down on her neighborhood tyranny, determined that nothing in Sunview Estates should be less than perfect while she was in the national spotlight. She issued violation notices for excessive children's laughter during quiet hours and unapproved birded visitation patterns in backyard feeders. When Mr. Rodriguez decorated for his daughter's birthday with colorful balloons, Patricia personally arrived to inform him they exceeded the acceptable celebration visibility guidelines. Rachel watched these petty displays while continuing to build her case. She had now obtained internal company emails showing Patricia knew about the skin reactions, but had instructed customer service to blame users for improper application or spiritual resistance to blessings. Most damning was a recorded call with a former chemist who had quit Holy Land after being instructed to find cheaper alternatives to already cheap ingredients. "She told us the label didn't matter because no one would know the difference," the chemist revealed. "When I mentioned safety testing," she said, "faith is their safety test." As Patricia prepared her white linen outfit for television and practiced her inspirational story of divine business guidance, 3 separate investigations were about to converge. Rachel, Dr. Patel, and Leif didn't know each other yet, but their paths were set to intersect, with Patricia Blackwell standing directly in the crosshairs. 3 days before Patricia's big TV appearance, Lee Cohen stepped off her flight from Tel Aviv feeling tired but determined. She checked into a small hotel downtown, placed her folder of evidence on the desk, and called the phone number listed on the Holy Land Essentials website. "Holy Land Essentials, how can I bless you today?" answered a cheerful voice. "I'd like to speak with Patricia Blackwell, please. It's regarding her Jerusalem connection," Lee said, her accent mixing with fatigue. "Ms. Blackwell is unavailable for calls. Can I ask what this is concerning? You can tell her the granddaughter of Avi Cohen from Jerusalem is calling. The owner of the bookshop she claims inspired her business. There was a long pause. I'll pass along the message. Leah knew she wouldn't hear back. But she didn't need to. She had already scheduled a meeting with the producer of Rise and Shine America, who had been very interested to learn that a key part of their guest's inspiring story was completely fabricated. Across town, Dr. Patel was reviewing the final lab results with 2 FDA investigators in his office. The levels of mercury in these samples exceed legal limits by over 200%, said the senior investigator, shaking her head. And these undisclosed steroids explain the temporary miracle results customers experience, followed by the severe reactions when they stop using the products. Dr. Patel nodded. I've now treated 23 patients with reactions, all traced to these products. The most severe cases have permanent scarring. We've seen enough, said the second investigator. We're issuing an emergency order to halt sales pending a full investigation. The recall notice will go out tomorrow. Meanwhile, Rachel Chen had transformed her guest bedroom into an investigation center. The walls were covered with photos, shipping documents, and a large diagram connecting Holy Land essentials to various shell companies Patricia had created. Her phone rang, a number she didn't recognize. Hello, is this Rachel Chen? Asked a woman's voice. Yes, who's this? My name is Judy. I worked in customer service for Holy Land until last week. I saw your posts in some of the groups asking questions. You're investigating Patricia, aren't you? Rachel grabbed her recorder. I am. Would you be willing to talk about your experience there? That's why I'm calling. I can't sleep at night anymore. The things we were told to say to customers. Judy's voice cracked. Women would call crying about rashes or burns, and we had a script telling us to blame them for not having enough faith or not using it correctly. Do you have copies of these scripts? Rachel asked, trying to contain her excitement. I have everything. Training manuals, internal memos, emails about hiding ingredients. I even have recordings of Patricia telling us to delete negative comments and block anyone who asked too many questions. By that evening, Rachel had 5 more former employees willing to talk. The evidence was overwhelming. Holy Land wasn't just misleading people. It was knowingly harming them while hiding behind religious language to avoid scrutiny. As these investigations accelerated, Patricia remained focused solely on her upcoming TV appearance. She had just received the good news that the segment had been extended from 7 minutes to a full 20 minutes. The producer had called it a more in-depth look at your inspiring journey. Patricia was thrilled, completely missing the ominous tone in the producer's voice. We need to look absolutely perfect for this, she told her assistant. Order violation notices for everyone on Magnolia Lane. I want every lawn mowed, every mailbox painted, every trash can hidden by Thursday. I'll be bringing a camera crew to film B-roll of the neighborhood. Her assistant nodded, though she'd heard disturbing rumors about the company. Just yesterday, her cousin who worked at the FDA had texted asking if she still worked for that sketchy cosmetics company. In her sprawling home office, Patricia practiced her TV talking points in front of a mirror. God gave me a vision in Jerusalem, she rehearsed, dabbing fake tears. I never dreamed it would grow into such a blessing for women everywhere. Her phone buzzed with a text from her lawyer, call me ASAP. She ignored it. Then another text from her operations manager, FDA inspectors at warehouse. Urgent. She ignored that too. Nothing was going to ruin her moment of glory. That night, Patricia filmed her weekly livestream, unveiling the television special collection of products she would feature on the show. These are the most powerful formulations I've ever been blessed to share, she declared as orders flooded in. Supplies are limited, so order tonight. What she didn't know was that Rachel Chen was recording every word, documenting each false claim about ingredients and effects. Dr. Patel was sending his final report to the FDA with recommendations for immediate product seizure, and Leah Cohen was meeting with the Rise and Shine America executive producer, showing family photos that Patricia had stolen and used in her marketing materials. From 3 different directions, the walls were closing in on Patricia Blackwell's empire of lies, and in less than 48 hours, she would walk into the television studio completely unaware that she wasn't there to be celebrated, but exposed. The morning of Patricia's big TV appearance arrived with perfect sunshine. She'd been up since 4 a.m., her personal hairstylist and makeup artist working to ensure she looked flawless. Her white linen outfit with subtle gold embroidery had been specially designed to look both holy and high-end. "The car will be here in 20 minutes, her assistant said, poking her head into the room. "And the products are already at the studio." Patricia nodded, practicing her serene smile in the mirror. "Today, Holy Land Essentials becomes a household name," she said. "I can feel it." What she couldn't feel was the storm that had gathered around her. She'd been too busy ignoring calls and focusing on her moment of glory to notice the danger signs. At the Rise and Shine America studio in Midtown, things were unusually busy for a Thursday morning. Security had been increased, producers were huddled in last-minute meetings, and 3 unusual guests had been escorted to a private green room separate from where Patricia would wait. "Aren't you sure about this format?" asked Jackson, one of the show's hosts, reviewing the completely revamped segment outline. "This is going to be brutal." Meredith, his co-host, nodded grimly. "The evidence is overwhelming, and our legal team says we're clear to proceed given what we now know. Besides, we have a responsibility to our viewers. Some of them could be hurt by these products." In the secret green room, Rachel Chen was meeting Leah Cohen and Dr. Patel for the first time. Though they'd been coordinating by phone for 2 days, this was their first face-to-face meeting. "So you're the granddaughter," Rachel said, shaking Leah's hand. "Your grandfather's bookstore is beautiful. I can't believe she stole your family photos." "And claimed my grandmother was some kind of ancient beauty expert," Leah said, still angry. "She was a literature professor who never wore makeup a day in her life." Dr. Patel was organizing his medical photographs. "The newest lab results came in last night. The mercury levels in the Moses Miracle Cream are even higher than we thought. It's criminal." A producer stuck her head in. "She's arrived. We go live in 30 minutes. Remember, don't enter the main studio until you're introduced on air." Across the building, Patricia was being led to her own green room, impressed by the star treatment. Fresh flowers, bottled water, and a basket of pastries awaited her. Her Holy Land products had been arranged beautifully on a table that would be rolled onto the set. "The segment producer will be in shortly to go over the final questions," said the production assistant with a smile that seemed oddly tight. Patricia didn't notice. She was too busy texting her marketing team. "Get ready for the website to crash from traffic. Double the prices on everything tonight." 10 minutes before airtime, a young producer finally entered with a clipboard. "Ms. Blackwell, I just need to confirm a few details. You developed these products after a visit to Jerusalem, correct?" "Yes, God led me to a tiny family shop where I discovered ancient beauty secrets passed down for generations," Patricia replied smoothly, having told this lie so many times she almost believed it herself. "And all ingredients come from the Holy Land region." "Absolutely. That's what makes them so special and why they're priced as premium products." The producer made notes, face neutral. "Perfect. You'll be on after the cooking segment. The hosts will introduce you, you'll walk out with your products, and then we'll dive into your amazing story." 5 minutes later, Patricia stood backstage, watching on a monitor as Meredith and Jackson finished chatting with a chef who'd made breakfast tacos. Her heart raced with excitement. This was her moment. "Our next guest has an incredible story," Meredith said to the camera as the cooking segment ended. "She claims to have built a multi-million-dollar cosmetics empire based on ancient beauty secrets discovered during a spiritual journey to Jerusalem." Patricia didn't notice the word claims or the subtle change in tone. "Please welcome Patricia Blackwell, founder of Holy Land Essentials," Jackson announced. Patricia walked onto the set beaming, her white outfit practically glowing under the studio lights. The audience applauded politely as she took a seat, her product display table positioned perfectly beside her. "Thank you so much for having me," she said, voice honey sweet. "I'm so blessed to share my journey with your viewers." Meredith smiled, but something in her eyes made Patricia suddenly uneasy. "So, Patricia," Meredith began, "you said your products contain ingredients from the Holy Land." "Our lab tests show they actually contain chemicals from factories in New Jersey and China." "Can you explain that?" Patricia's smile froze. This wasn't one of the questions they discussed. Before she could respond, Jackson jumped in. While you think about that, we have some special guests who would like to ask you a few questions of their own. The studio door opened, and Patricia's heart nearly stopped as three strangers walked onto the set. The cameras caught every flicker of panic that crossed her face as she realized that her moment of glory had just become a nightmare of her own making. And millions of viewers settled in to watch, unable to look away from what was about to become one of the most shocking live TV moments in morning show history. 6 months after the morning show disaster that people still called the Holy Land meltdown, Sunview Estates looked like a completely different neighborhood. Gone were the rigid rules about lawn height and mailbox colors. Instead, the community had blossomed with personality and warmth. On a sunny Saturday morning, Rachel Chen stood in her wildflower garden that was now officially protected as a neighborhood butterfly sanctuary. Around her, 30 neighbors gathered for the monthly community breakfast, something that would have resulted in multiple violation notices under Patricia's reign. "More coffee, Mr. Wilson?" Rachel asked, refilling the elderly man's cup as he sat comfortably in the lawn chair that now had a permanent place in her garden. "Thanks, honey. Still can't believe we're allowed to actually enjoy our neighborhood now," he chuckled. The spectacular fall of Patricia Blackwell had become almost legendary. Video clips of her TV show Meltdown had been viewed hundreds of millions of times online. T-shirts with her quote, "The Lord works in mysterious formulations," had become an ironic fashion statement. The 23 minutes of live television had unfolded like a carefully orchestrated takedown, which in fact it was. As the three surprise guests took their seats in the studio, Patricia's carefully built facade crumbled in real time. Lee Cohen had gone first, calmly showing family photos that Patricia had stolen, including the image of her grandfather's bookstore that had never sold any beauty products. The cameras zoomed in on Patricia's face as she stammered about spiritual interpretations of reality. Dr. Patel followed by displaying medical images of skin reactions caused by the products, along with lab results showing dangerous chemicals undisclosed on any labels. "These aren't blessings," he had said firmly. "These are health hazards." Then Rachel revealed financial documents showing the classic structure of a pyramid scheme, along with recordings of Patricia instructing employees to delete evidence of side effects and to push consultants into debt to buy more inventory. Patricia's responses devolved from defensive to desperate. "You're persecuting me for my faith," she had shouted at one point, before trying to storm off the set, only to knock over her product display table. The milk of cannon bottles had shattered across the studio floor, filling the air with a chemical smell that made the camera operator start coughing. The aftermath was swift and severe. The FDA issued an emergency recall of all Holy Land products. The FBI opened investigations into wire fraud, misleading business practices, and illegal pyramid scheme operations. Class action lawsuits poured in from hundreds of former consultants and thousands of customers who had experienced skin reactions. And in Sunview Estates, the revolution happened overnight. An emergency HOA meeting held the very evening of the TV disaster resulted in Patricia's unanimous removal. By the next morning, garden gnomes had reappeared, doors were being painted in previously forbidden colors, and children were allowed to laugh at normal volume again. "More pancakes?" asked Mrs. Rodriguez, bringing around a fresh platter at the community breakfast. Her front door, now painted a cheerful bright blue, had become a symbol of the neighborhood's liberation. Mr. Thumpson, whose garden gnome had mysteriously disappeared years ago, had started a community garden in the previously unused HOA decorative space at the neighborhood entrance. "The tomatoes are coming in beautifully," he told anyone who would listen, proudly showing off his dirt-stained hands. As for Patricia's victims beyond the neighborhood, they had found unexpected redemption. The Blessed Consultants Support Network, founded by Diane and other former sellers, had evolved into a legitimate cooperative developing actually natural skincare products. They called their first collection Truth Serum, and it sold out based on genuine recommendations rather than false promises. Dr. Patel had established a specialized clinic treating patients affected by the contaminated cosmetics. "The healing process is often as much emotional as physical," he explained to medical students who now visited his practice to learn about the case. "Many people feel betrayed and foolish for being taken in by the false claims." Lee Cohen had used the settlement money from her lawsuit against Patricia to restore her grandfather's historic bookshop in Jerusalem. She had added a small museum section documenting how the humble store had inadvertently brought down a fraudulent beauty empire. It had become a popular stop on tourist walking tours. As for Patricia herself, most people in Sunview Estates tried not to mention her name, though the occasional joke about unauthorized wind chime noises still made the rounds at neighborhood gatherings. After multiple federal indictments, she had accepted a plea deal requiring full financial restitution to consultants and customers. Her Tudor mansion, once the fortress from which she'd ruled the neighborhood, had been seized and eventually converted into Sunview's first community center, with meeting rooms, a library, and space for classes. The rigid formal gardens had been replanted with native species that attracted butterflies and birds. Where the Patricia Blackwell Rose Garden sign had once stood, a simple wooden plaque now read, "Sunview Commons, all are welcome here." That morning, as neighbors chatted over coffee and pancakes in Rachel's wildflower garden, someone spotted a bright blue butterfly landing on a colorful wind chime that would have been strictly forbidden in the old days. "I think that's a good sign," Mrs. Lee said, smiling as she watched it flutter its wings. Not a blessed sign or a miracle sign, just a regular, beautiful good sign that things are as they should be. And everyone agreed that was more than enough.